Hi, so I'll try again. I had a message, but it cut off. I don't know what I said. I figure it's God's will. I mean, some people think I'm crazy. If it's providence, it's providence. And speaking of crazy, let's talk about the Puritans and the Pilgrims. You can't confuse the two groups. They're two separate groups. Well, to me as an American, the Pilgrims are the ones who came over on the Mayflower and they established their society on Plymouth Rock. But to me, that society was a bit cult-like. A lot of them died because they were just very, very monolithic in their thinking. Nobody could be a free thinker. A few of the Native Americans came along and helped them eventually. You're gonna be okay, and that's why we had Thanksgiving. I love it. I don't think that the Pilgrims were like aggressive Europeans, conquerors. I think they were people who were wanting freedom to worship their God in a very pure way. Pilgrims, Puritans, now you're getting them mixed up. To me, they're the same thing. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Please forgive me. Originally, they fled England to what we shan't say Deutschland, we shall say Dutchland, right? We would say Holland, and they thought this place is like the red light district on steroids, which it still is today, I think, at least in Amsterdam. Sorry, just had a little cough there. I love all the tulips from Holland. Don't get me wrong, but am I going to plant tulips in honor of Holland? The cesspool of the world? No, now, if this doesn't go through, I'll know I've said something wrong, because I didn't really mean it. It's just a little test there. Okay, anyway. But you realize that the Pilgrims all had to dress in black and white, and the women had to be very prim and proper, and the men had to have their Elizabethan starched collars and all that sort of thing, especially when they posed for family portraits with a painter. You know, it's very rigid, a bit like the Amish society, which we still have, you know, today here where I live, but let's not say it in a disparaging way. However, would you want to live that way? I don't think so. Homie, don't play that. Okay, you're gonna... Somebody... Okay, never mind. Well, the reason why people fled Europe, like people like the Pilgrims, and also people that were not very religious would flee Europe over the generations, is because they were so tired of being judged not by the content of their character, but by the degree of their pedigree and or the color of their skin. I'm sorry, because I'm a European person, so I'm a European descendant, so I'm sorry that I cannot necessarily speak to what you have experienced, and it's not out of a lack of compassion, it's just out of a lack of real knowledge. I mean, I know my grandfather supposedly was a gypsy, and last time I saw my grandmother, she said, well, you look a lot like your grandfather. And it wasn't a very flattering thing because my hair was like super curly. It was in the spring. It's like my hair curls up. I look like a North African or a gypsy, but that's my genetics, you know. And my brother had blonde hair, straight blonde hair and blue eyes. I mean, he was like a total towhead when he was a toddler. His hair was like platinum blonde. I tried to get my hair blonde, you know, but it's, you know what, that's not what God had planned for me. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let us not be distracted from the main issue. Yes, I know that sexual impropriety and immorality is wrong. But what about snobbery? See, this is something that hits very close to home. Because even though my parents were both working professionals, after the initial divorce, that was a horrible thing because people really mistreated me. And even after my parents remarried, people still looked down upon me in this certain community where I had not grown up, and they just did not have any respect for me, even though my parents were working professionals. I mean, a few of them did, but not many. And that's very difficult. You cannot overcome this mystique of being some sort of like an undesirable or like an outlander, an Ausländer, you know? When we think of Österreich, we think of my grandparents who identified as Transylvanian Saxons. Well, you weren't good enough to be a German, so I guess you're a Transylvanian Saxon, right? Transylvania. I don't know, folks. The politics of Europe? Who am I to speak about that in great detail or length? I just know that I just want to be respected for who I am as a human being. So I've given birth to 9 children, been married to 1 man, so it's like they're all by the same guy. You know, it's not that it's wrong to, like, you know, have a combined family or whatever. But it's like, well, I've been married since 1992 or something? I think that's when I got married. I know, I forget sometimes. Why am I, like, unacceptable? Well, you don't live in the right zip code. And when I tried to take birth control, it made me physically ill and it made me fat. So that's like 2 strikes against birth control. So I kept having kids and I was pretty successful. I never had a miscarriage or anything like that. So it wasn't too bad until you realize that the more children you have, the more you have to pay for their upkeep. So perhaps it wasn't the brightest thing, but when you get married at age 20, you might not be the most worldly astute person in the world. Even if you was a great student, maybe you're not the smartest in the world. Well, I grant you that. I've tried to take care of the kids as best I could. And now we're talking about church scandals. Like, well, the whole Hillsong thing, I never really liked the whole paradigm of like, blah, blah, blah. I'm so hip, I'm so this. I was always past it for them. The old baggage. We don't need old baggage in my church. We need the young people. But the young people, you're not teaching them properly. You're not giving them proper tutelage. You're doing something else to them. And I can't mention what it is. I just throw my hands up because, quite honestly, I was thinking about, well, can we join another church? But I just don't know. Maybe it's better just to be a lone independent Christian. I hate to say that because it could be wrong, but I'm just a free thinker, so I'm thinking maybe it's good to worship Christ and be good to people regardless of their race, creed, ethnicity, educational background. What if you were just good and kind and were Jesus to the world while the rest of the world tries to kill itself? You know, that's all I have to say. I mean, I really don't like snobbery because we've experienced it in church, and it's really mostly because we don't live in the zip code where you think we ought to live if we're upper white middle class people. But I want to tell you, when I went to the store today, you know, I talk about going to the store. This guy approached me. He's a guy with a baseball cap on, a little shorter than I am, with his little glasses, and he's like, "Excuse me, ma'am." I'm like, "Okay, what do you want to say? Like, you really like my messages on YouTube? Could you spare some money? I'm in a bad place. I'm homeless." Okay. Well, I've got a dime, which I actually had a dime in my pocket. So I said, "Okay, but I only have a dime." So I gave it to him, and I was hoping he wouldn't think I was trying to make fun of him or anything. Like, "Hey, buddy, can you spare a dime?" That's all I had was a dime in my... I don't carry large wads of cash with me. What do I look like? A drug dealer's mistress or something? Well, apparently, I know. I don't know why he approached me. It's like, and then, ironically, as soon as I gave him the dime, and he's like, "Well, that's great, thank you." You know, he doesn't show that he's disappointed or mad. It's like his cell phone rings, and it's the Sanford and Son theme song. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. I don't know, is that God's joke on him or something? Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Like, it's a little white guy, you know, with glasses and a baseball cap. What freaky thing just happened to me? I'm asking you. Like, I didn't... Okay. Well, anyway, so it's like I wasn't snobby toward him. Maybe he saw a look on me like I had benevolence on my face. Yeah, I have benevolence, but I don't have any money, so I mean, if benevolence is valuable to you, you would want me to be part of your church, wouldn't you?
Yes, that is my final word. Adios.